So a month ago, I began developing an extension for Kick.com. I also live streamed the entire process. This involved reverse engineering their website, authenticating users. You'll see soon why. Architectural decisions to make sure the extension is reliable. I also discovered something about the website that will surprise you. It's unheard of in the current year of 2023. The extension is called Sick because Kick is sick. And just so happens to be the name of the website spelled backwards. I've been raw dogging code every week, and I've amassed 120 followers. Somebody unfollowed me now. 119 followers solely from streaming. Given that Kick.com is relatively new, you're not going to find very productive discussions online about its backend. You will find a lot of comments that confidently claim that Kick must be running stolen code from Twitch. Well, I will elaborate later in this video as to why I know that for a fact those people are confidently wrong. There's not even a public API. And given that I'm not patient, I made my own API. But this video is not going to focus on that. Should I make a video about that too? All of this is only possible because of my sponsor, water. And water is good for you. You should be drinking water every single day. You need to stay hydrated, you know? And only water can keep you hydrated that well. Stay hydrated and support the stream. The very first feature that I implemented was the ability to set username colors. Kick.com did not have the option to let you pick your color. No. A color was randomly assigned to you, and it was different for every user in chat. So what you saw was not the same thing that somebody else saw. The colors you pick need to be stored somewhere. This means that I will also need to develop a service. An easy but naive approach would involve creating an HTTP post endpoint that takes a username and a color and then stores the pair in a database. But there's nothing stopping a naughty boy from just making a request, claiming to be somebody else, claiming to be somebody called Eddie and setting the color to hot pink. Another approach would involve putting my hands in your browser's cookie jar and take out the most delicious cookie that a website can offer, the session cookie. But that is a lot of responsibility and a big security risk. My viewers know I'm a good boy, and I would never ever take advantage of your cookies. But other users don't know me as well. And imagine if my database got leaked. You would have another Linus Tech Tip situation, but scaled horizontally. Not worth the risk. Instead, I've opted for the difficult approach, but at least the one that's going to be reliable. I have developed a protocol that involves multiple tokens and WebSocket connections to determine that my extension is telling the truth. Let me show you step by step what happens, and I will explain at the end why it's the way that it is. Every extension will connect to my server through a WebSocket. Communication will be done with JSON objects. The type field determines the type of message. The extension requests to be authenticated. The server responds with a token in the Kick channel's chatroom ID. Ignore this, by the way. I'll explain later why it's crossed out. The extension must now send that token to the channel's chatroom. Meanwhile, the server will be lurking in the chatroom, and if it finds a message that contains a token, it will create a new token that will be associated with the username from that message. The server then sends the new token to the extension, and the extension will be able to perform requests using that token, such as changing the username color. I can then notify all extensions that somebody's color has changed, just by sending a message to all of the clients connected to the WebSocket. Now, you should know that I'm using my bot's chat room. This is how I determine who's sending the message. I have essentially made the platform talk to my server directly. This is just a public chat room. Anybody can connect to it. And so, the reason why there are two tokens involved is because anybody can just lurk. If I had a single token, you would be able to lurk and collect all of these sweet tokens. You would be able to set everybody's color to hot pink. I was originally gonna send the username in the first request as well, and later have the server compare that with the username in chat. It turns out that usernames are personally identifiable information according to Google. Yeah. So doing this would mean that my extension collected personally identifiable information. These are scary words for a supposedly harmless extension. So I just dropped it. Not worth it. This took a while, but it was worth seeing the excitement in my chat. We now had control over our own colors. That is, a week later. Cake.com released an update that introduced username colors. So what was once seen as my extension's killer feature turned into a meh. What's the point if the website already gives me the option? At least my extension gives you more than 14 colors. Anyway, I then added the ability to change the font size in chat. If you think that all I had to do was just inject a style sheet that sets font size to the value that I want, then yes, you're correct. That is exactly what I did. But like username colors, it needs to be stored somewhere. Because if I refresh the page, they can't just forget about it. Look, it remembers. I do have a service now, but does it make sense to store the font size in the server? Username colors are stored in the server because they have to be shared with everybody. Font size, on the other hand, that is personal. I also don't think people would appreciate having to wait for the extension to make a request to the server just to get the font size value. The flashing from the default font size to the custom font size during that time would probably upset people. They would riot. You might ask now, why not local storage? Well, which local storage? Bet that didn't even cross your mind. Chrome extensions live in their own world with their own storage. They can inject scripts into websites, and those scripts only have access to the storage in the website. And who do I think I am to store extension settings in the website's local storage? I would be inadvertently limiting the amount of storage accessible to the website and taking away storage keys. I could use prefixes, but those take up even more space. And I don't like to pollute. I'm an environmentally friendly person. I also want to display the UI in the Chrome's pop-up extension. This will not have access to the website's local storage. The right way is to store settings from my extension side. But I will need to come up with a way for the website code to exchange data with my extension. Sending messages from the website to my extension seems to be easy. I can just simply use the post message API. The website seems to have third-party code that also uses the post message API. I hope my messages don't mess anything up. Now, you'd think that sending messages from the Chrome extension to the website would be just as easy, right? Turns out, nope. Turns out that the post message API does not work bidirectionally. So, solutions? I'm using Manifest v3. Global variables in my extension are isolated, so there's no way for me to share objects or call functions. There was an API for Chrome extensions that I could not get to work. I spent hours on it, and then later I found out it's not even cross-platform. Only works on Chrome. Won't work on Firefox, either on Edge. Oh yeah, did you know that you can install Chrome extensions on Firefox and Edge? Pretty neat, eh? But I found a way. You see, even though Chrome extension code runs in an isolated environment, it still has access to the DOM. That's how I injected my script. So I can simply place a data attribute and have the website code be notified of it through a mutation observer. I love these things. It actually works. If you do know of a better way, let me know. Now that I have the website and the extension communicating with each other, I can store my settings in the extension side and have the website request them as needed. As I was about to start writing the code, a viewer pointed out that Chrome extensions have a dedicated API for storage. I took a quick look at it, and it seemed to be much better than the local storage API. No need to serialize objects to strings. Can retrieve multiple values. It supposedly can even sync to multiple devices. So if you have my extension installed in 2 PCs, and you don't mind logging into your browser and giving your precious data to our Google overlords, you can change settings in one machine and have it affect the other one. All that sounded really cool, so I decided to use it. But then, when it looked like I had it all figured out, I find out that Chrome extension pop-ups live in their own separate world. There's always something. Even more separate. It doesn't have access to the website's DOM. And it makes sense because pop-ups are specific to the extension, not the tab that you have open. After more hours spent reading documentation, I found out that there is a janky API, emphasis on janky, that allows the pop-up to communicate with the rest of the extension. Hold my hand, I will guide you through this mess. I have to query for the currently active tab, call the connect function, and use the port instance that it returns. Now, you might be convinced that the moment that it returns that object, the connection has been successfully established. No. That is not how it works. This function, returns an instance that can be immediately used to send messages, but it may have not established a connection, and there's no mechanism to let you know if a connection was established. There's no specific event that is emitted when an error happens. You can call post message all you want, and it will happily return with no feedback. You're left in the dark until the disconnect event eventually fires. Yeah, even though the connection didn't establish in the first place, you do get a disconnect event. Were you expecting symmetry? Oh, you might think that the disconnect event will be helpful enough. The API expects you to check chrome.runtime.last error. If you don't access that property, you can expect to see a haunting red text in your console. Hey, check this out. If the port is closed via disconnect, then this event is only fired on the other end. So if you call disconnect, the onDisconnect event will not be fired.
It just works.
Oh, that's what happens when you set the font size to 0. I got a lot of suggestions and feature requests as I was building the extension. One of the most requested was the ability to ignore hosts. Hosting is when a streamer decides to send off their viewers to another channel to show their support. Some viewers don't like coming back to their computers and phones with another streamer's face on their display. I'm one of those. Being new on Kick, I wasn't even sure how hosts worked. I tried them out during my live streams, and as soon as I hit the button, it would send people over. Uh-oh. Luckily, I sent them to my bot account, and I was able to bring my people back and take some samples. Cake seems to send a message through a WebSocket to let the website know that it has to switch the URL to another streamer. As I was developing my own API, I hit a familiar 404 page. I discovered by accident that Kick.com uses Laravel. You know what that means, right? Oh yes, PHP is still kicking in 2023. They really created a streaming platform from scratch using PHP. Even though the website looks similar by design to Twitch, the underlying code is not the same. Twitch uses Go. It even used to be written in Ruby. Also, take it from the person who had to poke their undocumented APIs and has built an API on top of them. Their data structures are not like Twitch. In fact, we even witnessed big changes to the website's endpoints during the username color update that broke some chatbots out there. Kick.com is developing and refining features from scratch. It is impossible for them to steal code that is not written in the same language. They wouldn't be spending so much time developing these features. They wouldn't be leaving the website incomplete for so long. Anyone trying to expose Kick.com as code thieves is exposing themselves as fools. You're a fool. Knowing that it uses Laravel under the hood makes writing extensions for the website easier, as I can read the docs for Laravel to help me understand how things are implemented. It turns out that Kick.com is using Laravel Echo to receive the message that tells me that a host is happening. I made my extension hook into this library, which allows me to intercept events. I can now toggle hosts on and off. All I gotta do, just remove the event handlers. Easy stuff. The last feature that I implemented was keyboard shortcuts for the VODs. Oh yes, VODs don't have keyboard shortcuts by default. The arrow keys don't do anything. Kick is in beta, very much under development, so they naturally prioritize features for normies instead of for power users like you and I. But I couldn't just target every video element in the page. You're not supposed to be able to seek live streams. And what if they use the video element for other unrelated features? That would make my extension unpredictable. This time, I decided to hook into Vue's internals. While I could use the history API, I know that there is a router object that is responsible for determining what component is supposed to appear in the page according to the URL. That way, I am gonna be closer to the source, and my code will definitely only run when the component has been mounted. Unfortunately for me, the loading icon shows up first. But that's not a big deal. I just gotta wait for it with a mutation observer. With that accomplished, I can now hook into the video element. My plan was to let you move 5 seconds forward and backwards if you use the arrow keys, and if you press shift, you'll be able to go back and forth 10 seconds. If you press dot or comma, you were supposed to move 1 frame, but I couldn't get it to work reliably. Moving by frames turned out to be impossible because there is no API to reveal the frame rate of the video element. I had asked ChatGPT for help, but it made up a field name, a common occurrence if you've been watching my streams. One viewer suggested to hardcode the frame rate to 40, but I decided against it because while it could be close enough and will work sometimes, it just wouldn't be reliable. Not a lot of streamers run at 30 FPS. Most go with 50 or 60. I chose not to implement this feature, and the feature might look into the quality setting of the video to determine the frame rate. The best part about my extension is that the source code is available to you. It's on GitHub. You can build it yourself, change it to your liking, enjoy experimental features, and study the code. I had a viewer build their own extension as they were following my streams. If you do make something, feel free to share it in our Discord server. We have a dedicated code channel. The source code for my own Kick API and the service for the extension are available for my supporters on Ko-Fi. Thank you for being very poggers. As an added bonus, I'm listing all of my Kick subscribers and Ko-Fi supporters in the extension. If you'd like to see what I'm up to next, check out my website. Bye! Hold on. You there. Yeah. Yeah, you. Yeah, come. We're leaving.